So part 3, promulgation of absonite and finite realities. As we transition from the realm of eternity to the finite, it is important to note that the chronology of the existential phase is hypothetical. Nevertheless, it provides a conceptual framework for understanding eternity events which have no real meanings for us. Before that, I would like to revisit the purpose of the Universal Father. Although it would be presumptuous to explain God's purposes, it is essential to gain a deeper understanding of the motivations for diversifications and the reasons for personifications of the Universal Father on different levels of reality. In that regard, the authors reveal many clues helping us to form a reasonable and more concrete idea of it. And on page 21, we read, "The myriads of planetary systems were all made to be eventually inhabited by many different types of intelligent creatures, beings who could know God, receive the divine affection, and love him in return. But God, being bounded in his absoluteness on the existential level, cannot make the myriads of planetary systems and create the many types of intelligent creatures directly into finite levels of experience. Personification and diversification of the Universal Father on absolute level. On absolute level, the Universal Father acts directly through absolute personification of himself. In the eternal Son, the absolute personality is mercy. In the infinite Spirit, the absolute mind is ministry. And in diversification, in the Isle of Paradise, the absolute patterns for non-deity energy. The first source and center is divine unity and absolute perfection. Our Universal Father is Spirit. He is understandable to us as truth, beauty, and goodness. And his only personal attitude toward his creation is one of love, mercy, and ministry. This is, in fact, what drives him lovingly to reveal himself and share everything with his creatures to establish universal perfection. Let's see now the personification of the Universal Father on sub-absolute level. The three paradise deities must, in the eternal future, receive a supplement of personality through the experiential actualization of the evolutionary deities, God the Supreme, God the Ultimate, and God the Absolute. To provide this supplement of personality, the Universal Father personalizes himself into God the Supreme, God the Ultimate, and God the Absolute. And through the gift of personality and by technique of experiential growth, enables creators and creatures to participate to his plan. This is the principle of power personality synthesis on finite, ultimate, and potentially absolute level. Let's see now the purpose of creators in the universes. It was said indeed by the Universal Father himself, creators who know God have but one supreme ambition, one burning desire, and that is to be like him in their own sphere, as he is paradisiacal perfection of personality, and in his universal sphere of righteous supremacy. From the universal Father who dwells in eternity comes the supreme command, be perfect as I myself am perfect. Therefore, we can imagine that for every universe exists a definite plan to achieve perfection. According to her nature and function, each type of universal creature has a personal career in the universe whose purpose is also perfection. For us, our thought adjuster comes with a plan of an endless career that we must achieve. This is true at all levels of reality, absolute, absonite, and finite. And this is how we, evolutionary human beings, become partners with God, revealing his love, becoming more and more divine. Through our personal behavior, let's become passers-by of love, imbued with mercy for our brothers and sisters, serving them with intelligence and foresight. Through our social behavior, let us become active citizens, respectful of the laws that govern family, social, and economic life on our planet, acting with justice, loyalty, and determination. Now we are going to look at the preparatory stage and what happens in eternity. This is indeed a summary of what we have been seeing during the part 1 and part 2. Let's take a quick look to the preparations before promulgation of reality. 1, self-metamorphosis of the I am into 3 differentiations, I am threefold. 2, then 7 pre-existing realities, I am sevenfold. 3, they are eternalized in existential realities by dual association, the 7 absolute of infinity. 4, which become functional through association string, the 15 triunities and the 16 triodities. So what happens before promulgation of reality? Just before the Universal Father promulgates finite and absonite realities, the situation in eternity is as follows. The space energies inherent in paradise are existent and potentially operational in the unqualified absolute, but have no actual existence, nor can physical gravity be measured. There is no material universe at this presumed eternally distant time. The spiritual energy of the eternal Son is existent and potentially operative in the Deity absolute, but has no actual existence, nor can spiritual gravity be measured. The mind energy of the infinite spirit is existing and potentially operational in the universal absolute. But at this moment in eternity, it does not yet have an actual existence, nor can mind gravity be measured. Thus, the stage of universal space is thus set for the emergence of universes, the endless multiple panorama where the Universal Father's purpose creatively unfold through the personality of the Eternal Son and the acts of the God of action, the executive agent of the reality-fulfilling Father-Son creative association. Role of the Paradise Trinity. The Paradise Trinity is the union in deity of the three source and centers. It associates, integrates, and unifies their respective nature, functions, and attributes. Paradise Trinity is greater than the sum of its parts. The functions of the Trinity are unique, original, and not entirely predictable. It should be also remembered that the Paradise Trinity implies the threefold universal function. One, an absolute function as Paradise Trinity. Two, a transcendental function as the Trinity of ultimacy. And three, a finite function, Trinity of supremacy. The Paradise Trinity is any and all of this at any and all time. Indeed, I like to compare it to the board of directors of a company, whose role is to ensure that the corporate purpose for which it was created is ultimately achieved, and which determines overall policies and ensures compliance with the bylaws and cohesion of all company components. Also, the board appoints the manager of branches and other subsidiaries. Now let's look at the role of experiential trinities in the universes. Other trinities are created as a result of unification of experiential deities in the cosmos. They are not personal. They have functions, such as administration of justice, totality attitudes, coordinate actions, and cosmic overcontrol in their own domain of sovereignty. These functions are supreme in the ultimate Trinity, in the seven superuniverse and beyond, ultimate in the absolute Trinity, the four outer space levels and beyond, and absolute in the Trinity of Trinities, existential experiential, domain the absolute. Trinities are only interested in the whole, not in the part. All their decisions and ordinance, imbued with justice, power, and sovereignty, are applied to the whole under the aspect of providence, in the interest and happiness of the finite, absonite, and absolute creation. On finite level, the ultimate Trinity oversees the destiny of the 700,000 local universe that make up the seven superuniverse, with all their differences, specificities, and objectives, which must ultimately be functionally and spiritually coordinated and unified as a whole, and reaches light and life at the end of the second age. The absolute Trinity works in the same way in the four outer space level. Promulgation of reality. Finite possibility is inherent in the infinite, but the transmutation of possibility to probability and inevitability must be attributed to the self-existent free will of the first source and center, activating all Trinities association. Only the infinity of the Father's will could ever have so qualified the absolute level of existence, as to eventuate an ultimate or to create a finite. What happens after the promulgation of realities? The entire promulgation of finite existences represents a transference from potential to actuals within the absolute association of functional infinity. 1. On potential level, the presence of the unqualified absolute charged with space potency spreads throughout space. The presence of the deity absolute becomes manifest, and the universal absolute coordinates the absolute level with the finite and absonite level. 2. On actual level, the gravity of paradise becomes functional. The spiritual gravity of the eternal Son is operational. Thus, the universe, embraced with a dual gravity, is touched by the energy of infinity and immersed in the spirit of divinity. The ground for life is thus prepared for the mind of the infinite spirit to become manifest in the associated intelligence circuits. 3. On universe level, emergence of the master universe as a whole, Havana, the perfect central universe, the 7 super universes proceeding toward perfection, and the 4 outer space level in the process of physical constitution. 4. On the Trinity level, the existential paradise Trinity starts to function as transcendental in the Trinity of ultimacy and a finite function in the Trinity of supremacy. 5. On the sub-absolute God level, the sub-absolute personifications of God the Sevenfold, God the Supreme, God the Ultimate, and God the Absolute. And finally, on the creature level, the appearance of 3 maxima: the perfect Havana beings, the ascenders become perfect by evolution, and things, meanings, and values neither perfect nor made perfect, but coordinated with the other. The space-time mechanism. To exist, sub-infinite reality needs a space-time mechanism. Space. Space originates just below nether paradise. Space is a gift of paradise. Space is peculiar to the master universe. It contains and conditions motion. Space of the master universe is divided into 7 levels separated by quiet zones. There are 7 different concepts of space as conditioned by time. Only in the 7 super universes are space and time related. Space is measured by time, not time by space. Time. Time seemingly originates just above upper paradise. Like space, time is a gift of paradise, but it is given indirectly, being dependent upon the motion contained in space. Time is the possibility of growth for deities, creators, and creatures. Time enables potential to become actuals, giving to creatures the opportunity to participate in the creation, and become partners with God in the fulfillment of finite, then absonite, and eventually absolute destiny. Now let's go to the planning of the universe. The act of maturing the qualified possibilities of the three great potential absolutes is the absonite function of the architect of the master universe and their transcendental associates, the master forces organizers. And when these eventualities have attained to a certain point of maturation, the supreme creator personalities emerge from paradise to engage in the age-long task of bringing the evolving universes into factual being. The mandate of the Trinity promulgates the creative plan of the seven super universes. The various levels of creation are all unified in the plans and administration of the architect of the master universe. These acts perfectly anticipate the future need of the entire master universe, and this is why the divine plan is teleological. Evolution is pre-programmed, and destiny is determined within the master universe, beyond absolute mystery. The transcendental architect and their associates use triunities and triodities to design all levels of creation. The emergence of potential causalities and capacities implies activation of all 15 triunities. Should one be missing, actualization cannot happen. Now let's look how and which triunities are used by the master architect. Triunities are the foundation of realities. The master architect used triunities to lower realities from absolute to absonite level and triodities from absonite to finite levels. First, it should be noted that the universal absolute coordinates the unqualified absolute with the deity absolute and compensate the tension between the ever-existent and the uncompleted. Therefore, he functions in the fifth, sixth, and seventh triunities, lowering potential realities from absolute to absonite level. Without him, no realities become actual. Indeed, this is the role of the seventh triunity of infinite unity, composed of the universal Father, the infinite Spirit, the universal absolute. Unity of infinity is therefore functionally manifest in time and in eternity. That is the coordinate unification of actuals and potential. All other triunities depend on it to function. In the seventh triunity of infinity unity, the relation between the infinite spirit and the universal absolute is somewhat mysterious, as not all the observable function of mind is predictable. Throughout all known creation, there parallels this circuit of mind some little understood presence whose function is not predictable. We believe that this unpredictability is partly attributable to the function of the universal absolute. Now, let's look at the spirit realities, how they come from existential to become experiential level. The foundation of all personal spirit realities are mobilized within the first and third triunities. Step 1. This is the personal purposive triunity, composed of the universal Father, the eternal Son, and the infinite Spirit. The threefold union of love, mercy, and ministry, the purposive and personal association of the three eternal paradise personalities. This association yields volitional infinity, provides the mechanism whereby personal deity become self-revelatory to the creatures of the evolving cosmos, bequests personality, bestows spirit, and endows mind. And step 2, this is the spirit evolutional triunity, composed of the universal Father, the infinite Spirit, and the Deity absolute. The unlimited spirit potential of the Deity absolute find reality expression in the triune association of the pure spirit essence of the Father, the active spirit values of the Son Spirit, and the unlimited spirit potential of the Deity absolute. The existential values of spirit have their primordial genesis, complete manifestation, and final destiny in this triunity. Now looks at the energy realities, how they come from existential to experiential level. The foundation of energies realities are mobilized within the second, the fourth, and the fifth triunities. Step 1, this is the triunity of power pattern, composed of the Father-Son, the conjoint actor, and paradise. Paradise is the source of all pattern. Therefore, material organizations and cosmic configurations derived from the function of this triunity. Energy is fashioned after the pattern of paradise and organized by the cosmic agent of the conjoint actor to be at the disposal of the triunity of infinity energy for the next step of maturation. Step 2, this is the triunity of infinite energy, composed of the Father Spirit, paradise, and the unqualified absolute. In the next step, the Father Spirit activates the paradise energy pattern and releases them from the grasp of the unqualified absolute in direct proportion of the capacity of experiential deities to control, stabilize the metamorphosing cosmos. Step 3, this is the triunity of reactive infinity. The universal Father, the universal absolute, and the unqualified absolute. And this is the eternalization of all that is actualizable within the domains of non-deity reality. Again, the universal absolute compensates the tension between the ever existent and the uncompleted. Now, let's have a look to the master universe development. From a space-time point of view, the master universe came into existence at all once and in its entirety. the plans were conceived by the architect of the master universe. It consists of Havana, the central universe, perfectly externalized immediately at the dawn of time, surrounded by the two dark belts of gravity. All paradise patterns are eventuated in perfection and serve as model for all universe, past, present, and future, including beyond the master universe. The 7 super universes, each with a particular purpose, determined by each governing master spirit, representing a unique combination of the 3 persons of the Paradise Trinity. The master spirit of Orvonton, our 7th super universe, is the Father-Son Spirit association. And together, the central universe and the 7 super universes form the grand universe. Then the 4 outer space levels. They are in physical preparation, but not yet inhabited by personal creatures. Each level is separated by a zone of semi-quiet space, allowing primordial energies to circulate. And all those 4 constitute the master universe. So, universe creation modus operandi. The authors describe the creation of universe in 3 sequences, from absolute to absonite, and then from absonite to finite. So this is step 1, the level of absolute. This is the activation of static potential. The Paradise Trinity activates the Deity Absolute, the deified. The Deity Absolute actions the unqualified Absolute. The Universal Absolute unifies the deified and the undeified, correlates the Absolute and the relative. The Universal Absolute compensates the tension between the ever-existent and the uncompleted. This is indeed the establishment of destiny in the Universal Absolute by the actions of and operating on as a result of the volitional commands of the Paradise Trinity. As a result of potential activation, the primary eventuated master force organizers mobilize the space potency contained in the presence of the unqualified absolute. And the space potency of the unqualified absolute is modified into primordial force by the presence of the primary eventuated master force organizer and become active as the emergent energy on 2 levels, puissant energy and gravity energy. Step 2, the absonite level, externalization of universe capacities. This is the act of the ultimate deity, the architect of the master universe, and the multiple agents of the transcendental levels. This involves the transformation of undifferentiated potentials into separate, definite plans. Thus, the plans of the universes, Havana, the 7 super universes, and the 4 outer space levels are designed. transformation of potential into specific plans for each universe. Action of the ultimate. Under the intelligent action of the ultimate, in both level of emergent energy manifestation, the puissant and gravity energies are changed into space energy and thence into the energy of gravity control. Emergent energy, then puissant energy, gravity energy, space energy, and energy of gravity control. And on the stage of energy of gravity control, then the force, the materialization is becoming. Thus has physical energy been ripened to that point where it can be directed into channels of power and made to serve the manifold purposes of the universe creators. Step 3, the finite level, creation and evolution of the master universe. Space force has been changed into space energy and thence into the energy of gravity control. Finally, it is on a cosmos imbued with the presence of the ultimate capacity producing deity that the supreme creators, the master spirit, the ancients of days, and the paradise creator sons operate to effect in time the transmutations of matured potential into experiential actuality. This work is carried out on by the versatile directors, centers, and controllers of physical energy in the grand universe, the organized and inhabited creation. In summary, the mechanism by which the reality inclusive in the I Am emerges from the boundaries of infinity into the absolute, then the absonite, to end up in the finite, to materialize universes, are certainly more complex to understand. Nevertheless, we can summarize the sequences from the beginning as follows. 3 stages. First, preparatory sequences in eternity. I Am is inclusive of all reality. Nothing exists outside the I Am, static and solitary in eternity. But I Am is volition. I Am by volition separates the personal from the non-personal, liberating himself from the chains of static unqualified infinity and thus creating a tension. This is the relationship of unity. I Am resolves the tension by a self-metamorphose culminating in the multiple differentiation of deified and undeified reality, of potential and actual reality, and of certain other realities. I Am universal father, universal controller, universal creator, infinite upholder, infinite potential, infinite capacity, and the universal one of infinity. I Am externalizes these 7 pre-existent realities as the 7 absolute of infinity, the first source and center, the second source and center, the third source and center, the paradise source and center, the deity absolute, the universal absolute, and the unqualified absolute. This is the relationship of duality. I Am become functional by triune relationship among the 7 absolute of infinity. In the 15 triunities and 16 triodities, the foundation of all realities. The Universal Father is present in all triunities. This is the relationship of triunity. Second step, promulgation of reality. By volition, the Universal Father promulgates reality. Space, the gift of paradise, spread out. Time, another gift of paradise, come into existence. The space potency encompassed in the presence of the unqualified absolute extends through the universe. The circuits of gravitational presence of the eternal Son, the infinite spirit, and the paradise become active. The master universe is materialized in its entirety. Havana, the perfect universe, the seven super universe being perfected, and the four levels of outer space. The sub-infinite personification of the Universal Father, God the Sevenfold, God the Supreme, God the Ultimate, and God the Absolute are created and reside in Havana. The supreme creators included in the sevenfold are operational. Three types of creatures come into existence: primary maxima, the Havonians, born perfect; secondary maxima, the ascenders, who have become perfect; and tertiary maxima, things, meanings, and values, neither perfect nor having become perfect, but coordinated with their two ancestral factors. And the third step, materialization of the universe. Universes materialize in three sequences, from the absolute to the ultimate and to the finite level. Absolute level, the Trinity of Paradise, activate the potential of Deity absolute. The static but waiting unqualified absolute react. The universal absolute compensate the tension between the unfinished and the ever-existent, lowering causalities and capacities from the absolute level to the absonite ultimate level, thus establishing destiny. Ultimate level, the ultimate deity externalizes the causalities and capacities and transform undifferentiated potential into distinct, defined plans with the help of the architect of the master universe and the primary force organizers. Finally, on finite level, the supreme creators. Finally, it is on a cosmos imbued with the presence of the ultimate deity, producer of causalities and capacities, that the master spirit, the ancients of days, and the paradise creator sons operate to achieve in time the transmutation of mature potential into experiential realities. The master universe, it is just a design. Havana, 7 super universes, 4 outer space level, and the domain of the absolute. In conclusion, as we contemplate this gigantic living organism, we are invited to reflect on our universal career. First, about our partnership with Michael of Nebadon, our creator's son, in the making of the Supreme Being, and second, about our sonship with the Universal Father, who resides in paradise to fulfill the supreme, ultimate, and absolute command, be you perfect as I am perfect. In a nutshell, the reality as we practice it on a daily basis comes from antecedents beyond the realm of experience. brainstorming a conceptual idea of it strengthens our faith in God, who is love, mercy, and ministry. And it gives a direction for our decision actions and provide a huge perspective for our destiny. Our Universal Father endowed us with a unique personality type, offering the potential for 7 dimensions of self-realization, 3 on finite, 3 on absonite, and 1 in absolute level, enabling each of us to minister love and mercy in the master universe and beyond. Indeed, as explained in the Revelation, we are at the very beginning of our ascending career toward eternity, and the grand universe is just the sandbox where we learn to become perfect in the finite sense and trained about the basic of universe administration to get prepared for the ultimate adventure in the outer space of the master universe. I therefore invite you to follow me on a cosmic journey during a next presentation, in which, having reached paradise, we shall try to go beyond the finite, using the few hints revealed about the endless journey that lies ahead of us. Thank you for your attention, and now it's time for questions.
Thank you, George. Great presentation as always, and very obviously dense and broad material, but you did a great job as usual of taking us through it. Let's see what people have to say or ask. Mike.
In my early training, which I learned from your buddy, Jean-Pierre Houtier, back in the day, I've come to this, and I want to ask you this question in reference to the purpose of the universal absolute. My understanding is that the tension between unqualified and qualified, that's what the universal absolute does. It balances that tension. Now, Jean-Pierre compared it to the infinite spirit. See, I think that the infinite spirit was the first trinitization occurrence. Father, Son created an equal in the form of the infinite spirit. Along with that comes Habona. And because of the action the infinite spirit can do, being the conjoint actor and so on and so forth, would you say that's it's pretty much in alignment? I mean, trinitization had to start somewhere, so it might as well start in the first stage, I guess. So what's your thoughts on that?
If we look at eternity, the author speaks about past eternity and future eternity.
Right.
This is something difficult to clearly understand, but that is a conceptual idea. And to me, this would represent the universal absolute. And so that the past eternity. And the future eternity would be, in my understanding, the infinite spirit.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, that's good. Yeah.
And between those two extremes lies all the actualization of the potentials. And I would say about the same idea concerning the unqualified absolute and the Isle of Paradise. And I would say the same about the
absolute,
the Deity absolute and the eternal Son. So that's resonate like this in my understanding.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thanks. That was interesting. Deity absolute, past eternal, infinite spirit, future eternal, and then that combination is working along a so-called timeline, sequential timeline, in the present eternal. That's good.
Yeah, and the universal absolute is absolutely necessary.
Indeed.
And even in our own life, you need to have a mind in order to realize realities.
Yeah.
If you have no mind, you cannot have a consciousness.
Yeah.
So this is the same with the universal the universal absolute.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has to be present between the deity absolute and the unqualified absolute.
You know, it's that balancing between material and spiritual, and that
Yeah, that
pulling that we're going through now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, thanks. I appreciate
Right.
it.
Just like because you got the physical with paradise and the spirit with the sun, and the mind is the mediator and where it all works out, right? And the same thing happens in a different way on the absolute levels, the tension, I think is what you're saying. Michael, do you mind if I go to Salin first? Because he has a comment on this specific issue, and then we'll take yours. Okay, go ahead, Salin.
Thank you, Tim. Hi, everybody. This is Pablo Morales from Venezuela. It is about the question that Michael proposed, and I would like to give you an example. Let's move to an hypothetical moment in the beginning when was just the I am, right? And the I am make a first differentiation of reality. The static in that moment is the infinitude, okay? And so because he for free will he's separate from the static infinitude. So and there is the infinite as an actual, as a real actual in that moment, but it is compensated immediately for the infinity. Okay, so in everything that the I am make, there is a compensation to allow to keep unity, right? So
yes.
Yeah, so let's move to the second moment in the eternity. So the I am see himself as a 7 different faces, no 7 different faces that he think about himself as the I think I say the I am see himself as the universal father, as universal controller, as the universal creator, no, in all this the 7 faces, and then this is a moment of pre-reality, right? So
Yes, it is.
now he needs to make the reality, and there is a duality in that moment when these phases transforms in reality. What are the reality? The 7 absolutes of infinity, right? As you say in the presentation, the universal father, eternal son, and everything. And now that we have this duality, it also needs compensation, equilibrium, no? Is another thing. And now he needs to function. And as you say in the presentation, it was a beautiful and profound presentation. And he has to function and make it through the triunities. Okay, the 15 triunities, but they just give us a little hint about 7 triunities. But now about the question of Mike. When the universal father separated himself as an eternal son, he manifested as the absolute personality in the eternal son and as an absolute partner in energy partner in paradise, we noted that immediately there is a compensation because this separation of the spiritual personality and the pattern make the necessary appearance of a new being, the infinite spirit, right? That he compensates this separation, the personal and the entity, and he separated. But the infinite spirit, as Mike said, is similar to the function of the absolute, the universal absolute. Why? because the Father, the Son, and the Paradise, and also the Infinite Spirit are actuals, are reals, are actuals, but they
Yeah.
are they have potential, and those potential are shown in the absolute, in the potentiality absolutes. No, for example, all the potential that the Son represent are depository or repository in the absolute deity.
Exactly.
All the potential that has the Paradise are then depository in the unqualified absolute. So
Yeah.
every time that those absolutes are taken care of to make something new, when the absolute deities and the unqualified absolute are used for the Trinity, then there is a necessary moment of compensation, equilibrium to make possible to act, and that's the function of the absolute, universal absolute. That's what I wanted to share, just in the proposal that Mike asked.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Pedro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. Thank you. Michael.
George, thank you for a wonderful, again, presentation. It was just a delight to watch you take us through this great journey of reality promulgation. Just a couple of fun questions. Have you given any thought to how the triodities of actuality and potentiality will work in the age of the absonite? And ditto for the age of the absolute.
Well, I think I do hope that I clearly explain how existential become how absolute become absonite and then become finite. And those are, but perhaps that was not clear enough. The material universe are created in 3 steps, as the author explained very clearly in paper 106. The first step is the mobilization of the absolute. And this mobilization of the absolute are made by the order of the Trinity. It is the Trinity, the Paradise Trinity, who order to the Deity Absolute to start functioning. And the Deity Absolute immediately activate the unqualified Absolute. And then, as Sin said, there is the universal absolute who coordinate and resolve the tension between the level of the absolute to the level of the absonite. So this is how the absolute, the pre-realities of the absolute level become absonite realities. And then after the second step is the externalization of those absolute into on the absonite level. And this is done by the ultimate Trinity, and it is with the action of the master force organizers and the architect of the master universe, who are making from this pre-reality, they are making the plans of the universe. And the third level is from absonite to finite level, which is the act of the help of the architect of the master universe plus the supreme creators. So this is how my understanding of how existential reality become absonite realities and then become materialized into universes, material universes. Did I answer to your question, Michael, or not completely as I can see you?
Well, I was just thinking that we're familiar with the process of potentiality and actuality as finite beings. But in the eventuation situation versus evolutional, I find it intriguing to imagine what that process of potentiality becoming actuality in an eventuation process. I was just wondering if you'd ever thought about, well, how do eventuated processes or potentialities become actualized? And what comes up for me, and then also in the last round of it all, as we together strive to actualize God the Absolute, what are the do absolutes have potentials? Did the eternal Son have potentials?
In my opinion, since it is actual, it means that he encompasses all actualization.
I mean, it's kind of a poor question, because potentialities and actualities are really time-space governed, at least in the finite sense, and certainly transcendental in the absonite sense. And just one last little fun one. I've always enjoyed the idea that Paradise tradition asserts that the three architects with the counsel of the pre-eventuated senior architect contributed to the planning of Havona.
Yeah.
And that's just like, well, wait a minute. How could that possibly be? That it's of course, but they end up saying, but we do not really know. It's just a fun kind of conundrum that I think.
Yeah, well, this will remain always a question, because we see those things from our finite level, and we look at the absonite level. But those on Paradise, they look from the top to from the absolute to the absonite. So they have another understanding of what it is. And we always will remain with this, with two situations, so to speak. And as a last word, Havana is Havana.
Right, yes. All right, thank you,
Yeah.
Thank you, George.
Those are super interesting questions, Michael. Like, we're trying to imagine what that, like you said, we can grasp what's happening on the finite level, but what about these levels to come? You sort of think back to the Havona citizen before our level. What was their view? Like, you can just imagine one of them saying, well, what do you mean you're going to make things that aren't complete? How do you do that? And then they're going to become complete? What are you talking about? Because in our experience, everything is it just is, and it's finished. So you're going to kind of spread them out. But that's weird. But anyway, Pablo, do you have a thought on this?
Just a quick follow-up on that. I always love that issue about universe frames, that as how essential they are for our understanding, but that they are without exception erroneous to a greater or lesser degree.
Right.
Yeah, and I think we should always remember that we have the chance to live in space and time for our evolution. But at the same time, time and space is our most great obstacle to understand what is existential means. So in my opinion, we have to wait until we will start in the first outer space level to understand more what absonite means. Because if you remember, in the book, they said, when you reach Paradise, you are confronted with personality, with absonite personalities, and you get to know them, to understand them. And in my opinion, this is a preparation for our journey to the first level space. So this is, and yes, time and space limit our understanding, but when we will reach the absonite level, those barriers might be disappear as far as we will reach the absonite level.
Mhm. Yeah. Pablo?
Thank you, Tim. Michael, it was a really good question. It made me think about it. Have the eternal sons potentials? And I think that the answer is yes, because there exists an absolute that is the deity absolute. It has all the potential of personality. However, I agree with George when he say that the eternal son is an actuality. So he is an absolute, the personality as a personality is an absolute, right? So all the potentials that maybe we have for the eternal future, the sun represent in a fact that is existential from the eternity, right? So how I can see the potential that has the eternal sun, the derived deities, for example, are a potential of the absolute personality that the eternal sun represents. So what this mean for me? The supreme is a future eternal, right? But right now he is not manifested. He's not the existential. So he's potential, right? And he will grow up along with all of us. He will grow up until he is finally manifested. But then we are going to see another potential that the way that I see it is another potential that will lead us again to the eternal Son, into the universal Father. That is the ultimate. And the difference is that, as George say in the presentation, we are conditioned for time and space. And the transcendental, in this case, the ultimate, is in a different level where the time and space is transcendent. So I have been trying to land these kind of concepts to myself to say, okay, what are we going to do, for example, when we are in the outer space? How we will learn, for example. And I think I will give you an example. Let's say that now I need to make a car, right? So to make a car, I have to study how to make it, how everything functions, and it will take me time, no? It will take me time to learn and to make it. But let's see that right now I am in the first outer space, right? And we are trying to make something that transcends time and transcends in space, but still we are growing, we are experiencing things. So let's say I never learned to make a car here. Now I have to learn to make it there. But all the knowledge is in a kind of network, for example, that I can access. And it's just one instant of time, transcending the time. I know how to make a car. Just in an instant, poof, and I make it. Okay, I know now how to make a car. And I try to make it, and it just appeared because all my knowledge, it will transcend also the time in the space, and I make it appear, for example, no? So it is the same, use what I need to do here, without the limitation of time and space. It is the only way that I have to land this concept to make it any sense for me. That's what I wanted to share.
Yeah. That's really interesting, that because when they talk about the actions of providence, right, sort of unexplained things happening, that's the next level acting in ways they don't really understand. That's a great analogy. I was wondering too, if this, how is this connected to the idea of the personalization of these entities, right? So we have we have some understanding, appreciation of the personality of the Father because we have a direct, contact, the other, we can experience that. We're lucky enough to have some appreciation of the personality of the Son because we have Michael. The Spirit, it's a little harder for us to have the personal. We have those Spirit personalities we can conceive of and relate to. The personality of the infinite Spirit, I think, is a little harder for us. And the personality of the Supreme Being doesn't exist yet. But at some point it will. And I mean, it's, or it's evolving or whatever. It's not fully personalized. And that's more than just, okay, great, now we can talk to it. That is its essence, its fulfillment, its coming full into being, its full expression is somehow connected with its full personalization, and as these higher entities start to personalize, that's it's an activation in a way that is coming, that's going to reveal these new things, right? What they're like when they're actually not only evolving, but actually expressing the things that they are meant to express, even though they, the actualization, right? That's that connection to personalization, I think, is worth thinking about and important.
Tim, let me just throw in one other thing here. I just remembered that the Trinity precedes the triodities, and,
Yeah.
and also the three absolutes. So in terms of the idea of my original question about potentiality, that um, potentiality is a time-space oriented point of view, I
Right.
think. And that
Right.
even though when they say that the Trinity precedes the three absolutes, that's just kind of a compensatory way of telling us about how things happened. I just wanted to throw that back out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, we're all dealing in an artificial thing so we can understand it because we are stuck in this universe. Jeanette?
Yeah, what attracted me to the presentation, George, is that you indicated that there's something like as above, so below. In other words, there's some lesson we can learn from understanding, the emergence of reality. And I wonder if you can expound a little bit more on that.
Could you hear her, George?
Not very clearly. Could you repeat, Tim?
Yes.
She said,
Go ahead.
She said, the concept of as above, so below.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, what's the second part, Jeanette?
Just, I got the impression that you were saying that by understanding the emergence of realities in these, primary relationships, that somehow we could use it in our day-to-day life down here. And I was wondering, maybe misunderstood that, but that's what I thought I read in the introductory material.
Right.
And I was hoping that you can explain a little bit more how understanding these, primary relationships, how we can use that, how it affects us in our life.
Right. Are there practical implications here of these relationships that we can tap into and use?
In a previous presentation, as you said on it, we have seen that as above, so below. That means that, for instance, when our Universal Father said to his son, let's make human being at our image. What does that mean? In my opinion, this means that God the Father has a personality, and he gave us a personality. God is spirit, and he gave us a fragment of himself. And God is reality, and we are a reality in the universe. So that's our link between our Father and ourselves. Now, we use all those realities that we have just explained in part 1 and part 2 in our daily life. For instance, when we transform the wind into electricity, we are manipulating the unqualified absolute, because the unqualified absolute is the source of all energies. For instance, when we have the three legs of our democracy, that is justice, power, and sovereignty. We use those in our daily life as a social habitant of our planet, because we have those three dimensions of our life here. So this is how we are using daily all those what comes from the three absolute of infinity, because we are using them, and we are using them through the triunities and triodities. For instance, the first triunity, the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, they give us personality, they give us spirit, they give us the mind, and they also make these rules of love, mercy, and ministry. We are using them all our life. So this is how I mean by as above, so below.
Thank you. And then I have one other quick question, if it's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
You used the phrase absolute destiny. I think you said there was a finite destiny, absolute, absonite destiny. And then you use the phrase establishing destiny. Can you tell me what the absolute destiny is? That's a question I've had for some time. What is the reason for all of this? What's the absolute destiny?
They are, as the author described, there are seven, the universe has 7 ages. Age 1, age 2, we are in age 2. And then the 4 outer space level are age 3, 4, 5, and 6. And here stop the boundaries of the master universe. But the authors explain to us that there is a 7th level, a level of absoluteness, which is beyond the master universe. And as I pointed out, God gives us a personality which can work and operate on 7 dimensions. And the last dimension is an absolute dimension. So my understanding is that our destiny is just infinite, because after we have been in the 4 outer space level, after the master universe has been unified and become in light and life, the author says that it is just the beginning of our career in infinity. And indeed, this is the absolute dimension, infinity. This is why I am saying that this is an absolute destiny. Does that make sense?
It does for us, but I'm thinking more in terms of does deity have an absolute destiny? I haven't found that yet. I'm just wondering if you.
Yeah, God is more than absolute. It is the I am. It is infinity, infinite, and infinitude. Mm-hmm. So, but we should always remember that the I am is inclusive of everything. Nothing can exist outside the I am. So everything is in the I am.
Right. Okay, thank you.
But
thanks, Jeanette.
I would like to come back to Michael's questions about the eternal Son, because I have not had the time to, I had not the occasion to think about it as an absolute or as an actual. My understanding of the eternal Son is the eternal Son is the source of spirit energy. He is the source of the spirit. So in my opinion, everything which is spirit nature comes from him. He is the absolute spirit, the absolute personality, and the absolute spirit. So is he actual? I don't know. But what I know is that everything that is spiritual is attracted by him, and he is the source of everything that is spiritual.
Do you think let's just take the finite level, but maybe this plays out on all levels, that the expression of the that you talked about on the finite level and how it works, that's not only simply what God willed and therefore decided to do in these combinations, and at some point it will be complete, but also that it's eventually going to encompass not just everything that was decided that he willed, but everything that could have been willed. In other words, replete as well as complete, and every so not only do we have, for instance, the 7 master universes and all the variations inside, but somehow those are expressive of every possible combination of things. And you get into the multiverse, right? Every possible, the reason we have these 7 is not just because, oh, I can combine 3 and 7, but it's that's going to fulfill the outworking of every impulse and every thought. And then obviously when you add these other levels, the reason they're there is because it's going to add up to everything that could be done on some level. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
So God obviously is always going to be more, right? Like the I am is everything's going to be in the I am. He
Yeah.
decided to not just do, I'm going to do this. He decided to do everything. And that's why we have to work through all these different levels.
Yeah. And yes, and this is the plan of the Universal Father. He wants to express himself
Fully, right.
on every level, in every creatures, not only on the spiritual level, not only on the personality level, but also on the mind level and on the energy level, because the I am encompass everything. So
Right.
on my understanding, on the 7 super universes, all experience that is possible to make,
Right.
by every creature, this is going to be agreemented into the Supreme Being. And the Supreme Being represents the Universal Father on the finite level. And by personalizing himself in God the Ultimate, God the Absolute, he does the same on every level of everything that can be actualized.
Mm-hmm.
But because the 3 absolutes are absolute, there will be no end to that process.
Right.
And we must understand that what we can actualize is always less than the potentials, because the potentials are infinite.
Right.
I would like to go back a little bit to what Pablo said about his understanding of what is absonite. This is super time and super experience and super space. And I do have quite the same understanding of what it is, but I would like to make another example, perhaps. This is imagine that you are making a film with 10 sequences. That film takes 10 minutes. You have those 10 sequences. You reduce the 10 minutes in 1 minute. You still have the 10 sequences, but very short. But they are all there. And in a point of time, you reduce the 1 minute in a second. The 10 sequences are still there, but you have transcended time. So
Thanks.
thank you very much for attending my conference. I was very honored and very happy to share my understanding with you and to listen to your question, to your understanding, because I think it is so important that this revelation will be shared and spread, because this is a preparation for our next life on the mentioned world. So the more we learn here, the more we make progress on the other side of the life.